This video is part of our 7-video series on the causes and effects of the current war, its history, and what it means for the future. Check out the full series for the complete picture. The Islamic Republic of Iran is facing its biggest leadership challenge since the 1979 revolution. The sudden death of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has kicked off the official process for who takes over. But what's really happening on the ground is way more complicated, full of internal power struggles and huge implications for the entire region. This isn't just a simple change of leadership, it's a huge turning point that will totally redefine Iran's future and send ripple effects across the Middle East and beyond. The stakes are incredibly high, impacting everything from the country's nuclear ambitions to its regional proxy networks and even the stability of global energy markets. According to Iran's constitution, a temporary leadership council has already been set up. It's made up of the current president, the head of the judiciary, and a member of the Guardian Council. This temporary group is in charge until the 88-member Assembly of Experts, which is a powerful panel of Shiite clerics, can pick a permanent new leader. However, the path to picking a new supreme leader is almost never simple. The whole process is kept very secret, with all the discussions happening completely out of the public eye. That makes it super hard to tell who the main candidates are or what's really going on behind the scenes. The last time this kind of transition happened was back in 1989, after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei died. But the situation now brings its own unique set of challenges, especially with all the increasing external pressure and internal dissent lately. How well Iran's institutions, different factions, and security forces stick together will really be put to the test. And whatever happens next will shape not only what goes on inside Iran, but also its foreign policy and how it acts in the region for decades to come. To really get what's going on right now, we need to look back at how the Islamic Republic was set up. The supreme leader pretty much has the final say on everything, acting as the top decision maker and the head honcho of the military. They wield a ton of power over the government, the laws, and the courts. This whole system, which mixes religious rule with some democratic bits, has always put a huge amount of power in the hands of the supreme leader and the Guardian Council. Now, the Assembly of Experts is supposed to be able to pick, watch over, and even fire the supreme leader. But historically, they've pretty much just rubber-stamped things, never publicly questioning the decisions of either of Iran's two supreme leaders. This whole dynamic just goes to show how much informal power structures really matter, and how carefully they vet people to make sure only loyalists get into the assembly. This current crisis is unfolding while things are already super tense in the region, with recent attacks and ongoing conflicts making the whole area even shakier. The regime has faced a bunch of public protests over the years, which they violently crushed, and a huge chunk of the population is still really unhappy. So, who takes over isn't just about picking a new leader, it's about how the government will handle people speaking out inside the country and pressure from outside, especially during this vulnerable time. They've actually had a plan for a scenario like this for decades, designed to soak up any big shocks and keep things running smoothly. But man, what's happened recently, like all those high-up officials reportedly dying, just makes things incredibly uncertain. This transition is really going to put their system to the test, forcing them to seriously re-evaluate how things work internally and if they can still keep a lid on things. Okay, so officially, when it comes to picking a new supreme leader, it's really up to this group called the Assembly of Experts. We're talking 88 Islamic legal scholars, and they get voted in every 8 years. But here's the catch. Anyone who wants to run for this assembly gets super strictly vetted, or checked out, by another powerful group called the Guardian Council. And get this, the supreme leader himself, either directly or indirectly, appoints the members of that council. This intense vetting process really shrinks the pool of candidates, effectively limiting voter choice. It pretty much guarantees that the assembly is packed with folks who are totally in line with the ruling establishment. That's why many accuse these elections of not being truly democratic. Now, the rules for who can actually become a successor are pretty strict. They've got to be a qualified Islamic legal scholar, fair-minded, devout, really clued into political and social issues, and, of course, a capable leader. But let's be real, the actual selection often comes down to this really complicated mix of elite bargaining, basically, backroom deals among powerful players, and what the big, influential institutions prefer. So, who are the big players in this whole, let's call it, less than transparent, process? Well, you've got the current supreme leader's inner circle, influential clerics from the comm seminaries, and crucially, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, as it's known. The IRGC, this elite force that's super loyal directly to the supreme leader, has really stretched its influence. We're talking way beyond just military and intelligence. It's seeped into politics, education, even the economy. Its whole gig of protecting revolutionary values gives it a asterisk ton of sway, both in domestic politics and foreign policy. In fact, many folks see it as even more powerful than the country's president. The IRGC is really pushing for a swift appointment of a permanent leader, and that just underlines its absolutely critical role in shaping how this whole succession plays out. So, this selection isn't just some religious or constitutional formality. Oh no, it's a huge strategic decision that's going to reflect the real balance of power among all these elite centers. Okay, here's it in a more natural, conversational style. So, what happens next isn't just about Iran, the ripple effects are huge. We're talking regional stability, global energy markets, and even the future of international diplomacy. Even though their constitution lays out how this should go, a smooth transition is definitely not a given. There's a real potential for a huge power struggle within Iran's political scene. You've got conservatives, reformists, and moderates, and they all have totally different ideas about how things should run. This current crisis has really cranked up that infighting, showing us just how deep the divisions are among the ruling elite. The IRGC and other security services are going to be key here. They'll be the ones keeping things in line internally and dealing with any protests or trouble while the country is vulnerable. How effectively and aggressively they shut down any opposition will pretty much decide if the regime can stay stable. Then there's foreign policy. That's another big question mark. Now, usually, Iran's big foreign policy moves are more about what the institutions want, not just one person. But a new supreme leader could still totally swing things when it comes to their nuclear program, their backing of proxy groups, and how they deal with countries both regionally and globally. And with the whole global situation right now, especially the increased tensions with the US and Israel, that just makes everything even more complicated. The overall direction of Iran's foreign policy, particularly their move to buddy up with Eastern powers like China and Russia, will probably stay the same. But how they actually do it could definitely change. The whole world is keeping a very close eye on this, realizing that whatever comes out of this internal power struggle will have huge, long-term effects on global security. At the end of the day, Iran picking its next leader isn't just about following the rules. It's a massive test of how strong the regime really is and the complicated power plays among its top brass. What we saw right after the supreme leader passed away showed a system built to handle major shocks. Security forces moved in fast to keep things calm, and there were already plans in place for a temporary handover of power. But here's the catch: this early calm we're seeing? It's not set in stone. Once things settle down a bit, those hidden rivalries among different factions are bound to resurface. They'll be clashing over how the country should be run, how to manage the economy, and what Iran's role in the world should look like. The big question of who will eventually take Khamenei's place is playing out against a backdrop of massive pressures, both from inside Iran and from outside. This really limits how long any internal power struggle can drag on. Who they choose as the next supreme leader will be a huge sign of the path Iran is going to take. Will it be someone who can actually bring all the different groups together and steer the country through its current rough waters? Or will this whole selection just make the existing divisions even worse? The IRGC, the religious establishment, and all the political bigwigs in Tehran are going to be absolutely crucial in shaping how this all shakes out. The world needs to keep a very close eye on this, because a stable Iran has huge ripple effects for peace in the region and global security. Getting a real grasp on this complex power shift is absolutely key if you want to understand where the Middle East is heading. So, stay informed, folks, because what's happening now in Tehran will no doubt shape the geopolitical landscape for years to come.